setting new standards in podcast excellence. You have joined the WBT, fully focused on business and taxes. Here is your host, Michael Lodge.
And welcome to the WBT. This is Michael Lodge. I am glad that you're here. Glad you're sitting down with me. Do you have your cup of coffee ready to start sipping on as we talk? I hope so. Conversation today is going to be about business budgeting, planning for 2020. I'll be right back.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.
So I've been talking about this subject for quite some time, mostly on the personal level, but now we're going to talk about budgeting and planning for 2020 for next year. I know that a lot of you small businesses, I'm going to specifically talk to the small businesses now. These are you guys that have 2 and 3 and 4, maybe up to 10 employees. But you need to start looking at 2020. And the way that you start doing that is that you look at what you've done thus far, because you're almost to the end of the year. You'll just have a few more weeks until the end of 2019, so you have a good amount of data to look at. Have your accountants run a financial statement, look at it month by month, and I call that a pull across. So you look at January, February, March, April, May, all the way up to where you sit now in December, or up through November, really, and then forecast for December. But look at what you've done thus far, okay? That's the most important thing. You need to look at your historical data. So what have you done thus far in your revenue area and in your operating expense area, okay? Those two things is going to determine how you're going to plan for 2020. So I would do that. And I like to have all my employees participate in planning. So that means printing out a financial statement and making several copies of it. And then sit down, because you're going to be starting to have holiday luncheons and stuff like that. Before the food comes, take 30 minutes and throw out some ideas of how you think, how your employees or your staff feel about 2020 and how they can improve it. Because remember, they have to become involved. If they don't know what your plan of action is for 2020, they're probably not going to involve. And those people need to know what direction you want to go in. But get their input and start doing it right now, okay? Now, a lot of small businesses, sometimes you're still preparing your budgets well into January and February. So you got to stop that. Do it right now. Sit down with your people. Find out why the revenue was such and such, if it was up or down, and how we can improve on it for next year, or maybe we need to eliminate something. And then look at all of your expenses. And get the input from your employees so that they can tell you what they know is going on. Sometimes you may be sitting there, but you're just trying to survive every single day, but they know what's going on. They need to be involved in the operating process and of your company or of your little business. Then you need to sit down with your accountant and kind of spread out and come to a conclusion as to where you need to be for 2020. How can you grow the company for the next year? There may be some product lines or services that you're offering that is not making any money. Do you raise the prices on them? Do you look at what is happening within your industry out there and what they're charging for those same prices you're doing? Or do you just drop it altogether because it's not a profitable service or product? Sometimes you got to make those tough decisions. Then you need to look at your expenses, your operating expenses. Why did your cell phone costs go up? Why did your paper supplies go, office supplies go up, etc., etc.? Just go down line by line. But on the revenue side, get your people's input. So, because they know they're dealing with your customers every single day. What is going on? But sometimes they don't tell you. And the reason why they don't tell you is because you did not get them involved. And they don't feel involved. They just feel as though that they're sitting there, doing the job, waiting for the phone call to come in and to deal with the client. But there are proactive things that you can do on your budgeting process for 2020 so that you know what the expectations are of the company and you can tell the story of what you expect to happen in 2020 to your employees. If your employees don't know, they're not going to do diddly squat for you. It's all about that communication process and knowing the numbers. The other issue behind that is if you have prepared your budgets and comparing actual against budgets, you can tell your bankers or your investors or your partners of exactly what's going on. Because you have to answer. You have to have answers to the issues within your company, especially when it comes to budgeting. It doesn't take that long to do a budget. It should not. It should be quite simple. If you're looking at your prior year's operating statement and then you say, okay, this is what I want to do for next year, spread it out over the year, and you know what months are going to be weak months and what months are going to be strong months, it should not take you that long. If you need help, call my office and I'll help you out. Send me a text at 818-252-5682 and I'll be more than willing to help you out. But that's not the point. The point is that you need to get your employees involved. Sometimes when they don't feel involved, they feel as though that, you know what, I'm just coming here to do my 9-to-5 job. And yeah, I hear everything that's going on with the customers. I know that there's issues out there. But they don't tell you because you did not involve them in that process. It's that constant communication process with your employees that makes you a strong budget and a good operating plan for 2020. So don't be delayed. Get it done. You can do it very quickly. But get your employees involved. Okay? In the past, in most companies, there was a very small group leaders within any company handling the budget, handling the budgeting process. And you as the owner are really the head of strategy. You're the strategy for your company, for your business. Don't just involve one or two people. Involve those people who are driving sales, who are monitoring their expenses, who are developing product and know the costs and how to do cost reduction better. They know the process. You need to have an open ear to hear that. You're the person head of strategy, but you need to know what's going on within your small company. So this year, I really want to make sure that each of you that own a company or small business bring more people into the discussion of what needs to happen in 2020. That's what you need to do. And you need to hear from them. You know, they may have some very exciting ways to bring in more revenue. A lot of times, I have had companies come to me, and they said, "My gosh, we're losing money. Our revenue just is not there." I said, we're just spending too much money. We have our expenses. And then when I look at the actual expenses, it was pretty much the same throughout the years, but their revenue went down. So a lot of people blame it on the expense side, but in actuality, when the revenue goes down, but you're still spending the same amount of money to support the company, you need to find out why did that revenue go down. And you need to improve it. Maybe you've got the wrong people in the wrong spots. It's always the question that all of us have to answer. Do we have the right people in the right spots? Okay? Leadership means that you have to have good strategy. But you also have to have the best listening skills that you possibly can develop. Because you've got some employees who will tell you what's going on, but you're not listening. You're not listening. Look at it and then use some common sense. Listen, look at some common sense. Business is really basically about common sense and how we're operating our company. If we know that our revenues are going down, we better figure out why they are going down. If your revenues are going up, that's the time to ask, why are we doing so much better than last year? Your employees will probably tell you because they're dealing with it every single day. Remember, employees play a key. They play such a key role in your company, but sometimes you're not listening. Gosh, in mediation, when I sit down with companies that are having conflict within their companies, the majority of the time it's because people are not listening to each other. They've lost that part of communication that creates conflict. And let me tell you, if you have conflict within your company, it can develop very quickly into a costly situation for you. So focus on resolving conflict very quickly. But the majority of the time, when things are going bad, it's because communication has gone bad. And people see things so much differently because they don't know what the owner of the company is really trying to get to, because he or she has never explained it to the people that are working for them. Conflict, I tell you, conflict goes very, very wrong very, very fast. Conflict, one person can cause conflict because of a miscommunication process, and then begin spreading that conflict between the team members of your company. And pretty soon you're spending so much more time dealing with the conflict and dealing with the anger and the miscommunication that your revenue will go down and your productivity will go down because you have to deal with conflict. Resolve conflict very quickly. And the best way to do it is through a really good involving the employees and communicating with them and listening to them when it comes to your business. Now, listen, sometimes you're going to have some really stupid employees. That just happens. They may be really good in the production line, but when it comes to coming up with new ideas, it's just not going to be there. And you learn that very quickly. But you encourage it because at least they're thinking about the company and they're involved with the company. Doesn't mean that you have to take every single advice from every single employee. But you need to listen because people want to feel as if they are being heard, as if they are participating. And that participation is what drives productivity up and revenues up. You'd be surprised how that works. So, within the next 2 weeks, by the end of 2019, you should have your budgets up. You should have them ready to look at and work off of for 2020. It's an important step. I say this on the personal side too. When individuals are looking for 2020, they want to save some money, they want to pay off debt and everything else. They need to put their own operating budgets for their personal side too. Just as a company does it for their business side. If a company has debt, find a way to get that debt paid down. No company should have debt on their books. It's just an evil source of expenses going out the door. So if you have purchased equipment, put together some money, then set some money aside to pay off that debt and get it down very quickly. Because then people are always saying, my gosh, I can never offer my employees any benefits. Well, the reason is because their operating expenses are so high. And because a lot of that might be going to debt. You might have leased equipment that you can't get out of. Try to get out of it. Somehow get out of it and buy a used piece of equipment or do whatever you need to do. But reduce your debt in your personal life and in your business life. So you have a few more days to get your budget going and completed. So I would suggest sit down with your employees at a nice luncheon, have some pasta, and talk about the strategy and the budget for 2020. It's not that difficult. In fact, every single one of you should be doing it. Every single one of you. So this is Mike Lodge for the WBT. If you have any questions, send me a text at 818-252-5682. And I will try to answer them as quickly as possible. I'll talk with you very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
This podcast has been produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.